Over the past 48 hours, I have received multiple DMs on Instagram about wondering how you can know when you're making the right decision when there's no evidence of the fact that things are going to work out or that this is going to lead you to your manifestation or whatever it may be. So on today's podcast episode, we are going to be talking about how you can trust yourself in making decisions even and especially when there is no physical evidence that can prove to you that taking those steps is the right thing to do. What's up, and welcome to the No Bullshit Manifestation Show, the podcast that demystifies all of the nonsense that surrounds manifestation and gives you a realistic view of what it's like to be on a personal, professional, and spiritual growth journey. I'm your host, Kat Kozad, manifestation and money mindset expert, and I'm so happy you're here. Let's fucking do this thing. I can imagine that most of the people that are here listening to this podcast episode can resonate with those times in life that it feels like things just aren't going the way that you want them to. Whether that be you trying to pursue something, a job, a relationship, a move, travel, whatever it may be. And it just feels as though it's not happening with ease. It's not happening with flow. It feels like you may be fighting an uphill battle and wondering if that's the path that you're supposed to be on. Or you could be in the position that you know that there is some sort of change that you're wanting to make in your life and you feel uncertain of if the steps that you are taking is going to lead you to where you want to be. Or maybe you just don't know what your next step is, what the next move is, and how to get to what feels like a more aligned and inspired position in your life. And due to the way that we've almost all been conditioned in our world, in our society to be, is really depending on that external validation or external confirmation or sign or whatever it may be to try and guide you on the path towards having the life that you truly desire for yourself. And that's why on today's podcast episode, I really want to talk about what you can do in these situations, what you can do when you feel unsure and you feel as though you need some sort of sign or you need that extra boost of confidence in order to take a step towards whatever it may be to help you manifest more of the things that you desire in your life and ultimately just live your most aligned and fulfilling life. And I want you to know as well, if you resonate with any of this, you're not alone. Because over the past few years since I started my intentional manifestation journey and started coaching all of the women that I've coached, this is hands down in like the top 5 things that majority of these women have really struggled with. The ability to trust in themselves and trust in the decisions that they are making in their day-to-day lives. And personally, this is something that I used to struggle with so much. And I want to say that because I know that a lot of you listen to the podcast or see me on Instagram or any of my other social platforms, and you see this very confident, grounded, trusting, faith-based version of Kat Kozad. And you are seeing a version of me that I have literally worked so intently and so intensely on for multiple years at this point. And if you were to rewind to the beginning of 2019, 2018, and all of the years prior to that, you wouldn't see that confident version of Kat. You wouldn't see the one who can just trust her intuition and trust her decisions and trust everything inside of her being without fail, because prior to really diving into the inner work and healing all of the different limiting beliefs and whatnot that I had about myself, that wasn't my reality. So I want to put that out there, and I want to be honest about that, because it's so easy for us to pick up on somebody's story and think that we're reading it from the beginning, when in reality, they're actually already on like chapter 30, chapter 40, whatever it may be. but you think you're starting at page 1 and then you're comparing your page 1 to somebody's chapter 30 and thinking, oh my gosh, why am I not there? How can I get there faster? And it's like, you got to read the chapters first. So like I said, we're going to be talking about this in depth throughout this podcast episode. But before we get into that, I want to remind all of you that enrollment for the Abundant AF Babe Academy, my signature online manifestation program, is going to be opening in just a few weeks here, which is so exciting. And the Abundant AF Babe Academy has been specifically designed to help you manifest more money, freedom, and fulfillment in your life by helping you go not only into the subconscious reprogramming that is necessary to manifest more of what you want, but also help you work through the somatic healing and trauma release that needs to happen in order for your mind and body to communicate fully with each other to manifest with so much more ease and flow. So you can sign up for the waitlist to join the Abundant AF Babe Academy by clicking the link down below in the bio. One thing I will say, and I said this on the last podcast episode as well, is that this is going to be the last round of the Abundant AF Babe Academy that is being run in its current style, meaning that this is the last round that you are going to have lots of direct access to me. After this round, there will still be the Abundant AF Babe Academy being run, but you will not get as much direct access to me and there will not be as many calls. So if you've been on the fence, if you've been thinking about joining the Abundant AF Babe Academy, now is truly, truly the best time to do so and get on that wait list, because after this round of the academy, things are going to be changing as I'm growing and evolving and things are changing in my life. So again, if you're wanting to get that level of support from me and finally manifest all of the things that you desire into your life by doing this deep healing inner work, join the waitlist for the Abundant AF Babe Academy. Waitlist always gets the first notification of enrollment and also gets a discount. So with that being said, let's dive into today's podcast episode even deeper, because we've gone there a little bit, but diving even deeper into this. So going back to the beginning of my intentional manifestation journey, like I mentioned, when I did not trust myself and I didn't really trust my intuition yet, there were many factors that had led me to that point in my life. Just like if you were to slow yourself down and look at and pinpoint what has happened in the past that has led you to not trust yourself, that has led you to not believe in yourself, and being able to look at those things. Because we cannot change in our lives what we're not willing to recognize, and we cannot change what we do not recognize. So one thing, if you listen to the podcast, you've heard me say this over and over again, but if you haven't, one very important thing to know about the manifestation process is that you must be willing to get really honest with yourself. You must be willing to dig down deep and look at your shit, the things that you haven't wanted to address, the things that you've been pushing down, the things that you've been denying, or whatever it may be, because those are the areas of your life that are actually holding you back from having that ease in your life, having that flow in your life, and moving you towards what you truly desire. So personally for me, when I first started my intentional manifestation journey, one of the biggest things that I recognized was that I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself because there were so many experiences that I had had where I had tried something and then it didn't work out. Or I had been in a relationship that I thought was my end-all be-all, and that relationship ended because I tried in a sport and didn't make the team. Whatever it was, all of these different experiences, and again, taking these examples and looking at them for yourself, I recognized that every single time I went through those different experiences, it led me to feel like I was failing. And because I felt like I was failing, I felt like I couldn't trust myself. So as I dove deeper into my intentional manifestation journey, I started to realize that it wasn't necessarily that I didn't trust myself. It was that I thought that if I made the wrong decisions, that I was going to fail. And that when I made decisions that didn't turn out the way that I wanted them to, that was a failure as well. So it felt like all of these past experiences, all of these things that I had done were just a pile of failures. And looking at those quote unquote failures, it made me feel as though there was something wrong with me for not being able to achieve in the way that I wanted to achieve or accomplish whatever goals or relationships or whatever it is that I was setting out to do. And because I had failed in all of these areas of my life, I took each of those experiences and created a story around the fact that I shouldn't and couldn't trust myself because of them. That because of all of these things not working out the way that I wanted them to, that meant that I was a failure and that meant I couldn't trust myself in the decisions that I was making. And so I started to look externally for all of the guidance, for all of the support in order to get the right answers, to make the right decisions, and ultimately really just came back to this place of recognizing that like I will never build trust in myself if I am always looking external from me to get to a place of trust inside of myself, because trust isn't built in that way. Trust isn't built by looking externally and confirming what you believe is true or what you believe is right by getting the opinions and judgments of other people, or by seeing and validating it based off of some sort of worldly experience. I said it once and I'll say it again. Self-trust is not built in that way. And so from that point where I really recognized that I wasn't going to be able to build that trust with myself if I was always looking externally from myself, I started to go inward. I started to really dive deep into the inner work and redefine some of these experiences in my life. And through that, I started to write a new story for myself. I started to create a more supportive and aligned dialogue for what it was that I was actually wanting to create for myself, which was a life that I felt so much more grounded and safe and trusting inside of my body and inside of my personal experience. And so one of the most major things that I had to look at through that experience was my relationship to failure. And in that relationship to failure, again, looking back and recognizing that there were so many experiences that I felt as though I had failed in my life, but coming to a place of redefining it for myself and seeing it instead as feedback and seeing it instead as stepping stones that led me closer and closer to more and more experiences that I was supposed to have, allowed me to change the story, change the narrative, change the meaning of what weight it was holding in my life, and finally release the fear that I had around decisions. Because looking back at all of those things that I thought were failures, they were actually the exact stepping stones that led me to the place that I needed to be. And now even further, 3.5, I think at this point, 3.5 years into this journey, I can look back since I started my manifestation journey as well and see that there are so many quote unquote perceived failures that I've experienced, but none of them have actually been failures. They've just been course corrections and detours that have led me to an even greater and more aligned path. And the reason that I share this is because oftentimes we're so fearful of making quote unquote the wrong decision, or investing in something and it not working out, or doing or pursuing or whatever it may be in your life because you don't want to fail. But when you can come to terms with failure, when you can accept that things may not go the way that you think that they're going to or you want them to go, but that the universe is always going to give you what you want or something greater, then you truly have nothing to worry about. And like I said at the beginning of this podcast episode, I'm speaking to you from the perspective of 3.5 years into my healing journey. If you were to talk to Kat Kozad on day one of her healing journey about how much faith and trust she had in herself and inside of the universe, she would say something completely different. But something I want you all to know and hear and understand is that faith is a muscle, and muscles can only be built when tension or pressure is applied. Your faith in yourself, your faith in the universe, your faith in the decisions that you are making will never be built if you're not putting yourself in positions where you can potentially fail. And again, remembering that it's okay if you do, because your definition of failure can change. It doesn't mean that it has to be something bad or wrong or negative or something that's taking you off your path and moving you away from your manifestations, but instead something that can actually move you closer. Because I can guarantee you that if you knew that you had to fail 100 or 1,000 times, but on the other side of those failures, you were guaranteed to have your dream life, then you would say, let's fucking go, bring it, let the failures come on, let me experience the different things that I need to experience in order to evolve and get me to the place that I'm finally going to be ready to actually fully receive my manifestation. You would do it. You would be so ready for that if you knew with absolute certainty that the failures that you experienced were actually moving you closer to your manifestations, and that after a certain amount of failures, you would get what you wanted. You wouldn't see failure in the same way. And that's the reality of this, is that you making decisions, it may not always go the way that you want it to. And being okay with that is going to actually allow your manifestations to show up with so much more ease, with so much more flow, with so much more grace, because you're not putting so much pressure and so much attachment on the one path that you think you have to or should take in order to get to it. Because that's really limiting you and your experience of what is possible for you by trying to bypass or detour around any perceived failures. When you can instead just give yourself full permission to follow those bits of inspiration, follow your intuition, follow the thing that is exciting you, then that is going to lead to the moments where the universe opens more doors for you. But through those doors will probably come moments that you feel like you're failing. But again, and I know I've already said this, but if you can change the way in which you see those failures, if you can detach from the need to be right, if you can detach from the need to have things go according to plan, if you can detach from your idea and your vision playing out the way that you want it to, and take action anyways, take steps towards what it is that makes you feel inspired and lit up and full of excitement and intuition, and remain open during those times, then that is what will lead you to having the success that you desire within these different areas of your life. There's no way that you are going to know prior to making that decision that it is 110% without a shadow of a doubt going to go according to plan or going to turn out the way that you want it to. But that's the exciting part about life, that we don't know. Fuck, life would be so boring if we knew. It would be so boring. And like I said earlier, these are the moments that allow you to build that trust in yourself, that allow you to say, okay, regardless of how this goes, regardless of if I get what I want at the end of this or not, I'm putting my faith and trust into myself. I'm putting my faith and trust into the universe. I'm putting my faith and trust into God or spirit or whatever it may be for you. because that is how you apply that tension. That is how you apply that pressure, and that is how you build that muscle. And with time and consistency of choosing to take action on whatever it is that you feel inspired for, whatever it is that you truly, deeply want for yourself, regardless of if you have any external evidence of whether it's going to work out or not, that is how you end up building up that faith, building up that trust, building up your intuition so that it gets easier and easier. I can say very proudly for myself now, I'm in a position that I blindly trust myself all the time. And in that exact same breath, I want to say that recently in my life and many moments over the past few months, there's been times that I felt like I was failing, felt like I was fucking up or not doing the right thing or questioning everything. But in those moments, while in the past I would have been so attached to the story surrounding them and thinking that I couldn't trust myself because of what I was experiencing or because of the perceived failure that I was going to experience, during those moments recently, I accepted them. I came to a place of full acceptance for them where it was like, okay, this feels shitty. Do I have to think that feeling shitty is the best thing on planet Earth? No, but can I accept it? Yes, I can accept it. Because through that acceptance for it, you actually bring yourself back into alignment with where you're actually at, as opposed to trying to convince yourself that you're somewhere that you're actually not. So what I mean by this is that true alignment, unlike what you hear on the internet, because alignment is such this like hot word and something that people love to give really funky definitions to that aren't actually that supportive. What true alignment actually is you accepting yourself where you are at in any given moment. Because when you are actually experiencing imposter syndrome or feelings of failure or fear, doubt, worry, whatever it may be, and you're trying to convince yourself that you're somewhere else, then you are putting so much resistance onto what you're truly experiencing. You're trying to pull yourself from where you're at into somewhere that you truly cannot be without acceptance for where you are currently standing. So bringing yourself back to where you're truly at, looking down at your feet, looking down at where your body actually is, and coming to acceptance for where you are actually at, so that then you can release the attachment that you are putting on whatever it is that you're experiencing, because that's when the tides typically shift. When you accept where you're at, how you're feeling, the thought patterns that you're showing up within, the beliefs that you're showing up within, again, whatever it may be, and you accept those things, that's when you can start to actually shift and release that detachment to then align yourself with what feels more supportive, with taking that action, with moving forward towards your desires and your goals and your manifestations in a way that actually supports you versus puts more pressure on you and really just feeds into cycles or patterns of the past where it feels as though you cannot trust yourself or that you're going to fail or whatever it may be. So, with all of this being said, one thing that has helped me so much in this journey towards really getting to the place where I, without a shadow of a doubt, just trust myself is leading with the belief and the affirmation that my faith is greater than my fears. My faith is greater than my fears. And back in the days when it felt like my faith was not greater than my fears, I would still encourage myself and choose to lead with this belief system. Because again, I'm going to say it for a third time, faith is a muscle and it can only be built when pressure or resistance is applied. So I put myself intentionally into situations that I had to lead with faith. I put myself into situations where I had to make uncomfortable decisions. I had to do things that I had never done before. I had to put myself out of my comfort zone, because when I applied that pressure, it gave me the opportunity to build my belief in the fact that my faith was greater than my fears and that I could trust myself. So many of you know my story in the fact that I decided to invest in a manifestation coach before it made financial sense to do so. I didn't have the money to invest in that coach whatsoever, but I chose to do so. I made the decision to move to New York City when it did not make any sense financially to move to New York City yet. I decided to travel the world when it didn't make sense to go and travel and do all of the things that I did. And I have continued almost every single day to make decisions that maybe logically and practically do not make sense, or maybe to somebody who wants to play it safe wouldn't make sense. But these opportunities and these things that have stretched me have allowed me to build that muscle of faith inside of myself. So for you, whether this be you creating something inside of your business, or walking down a new path, or starting a new relationship, or moving to a new city, or investing in whatever coach or program or whatever it may be, know that faith in yourself, faith in your intuition, faith in the universe and God can only truly be built by stretching yourself, by finding your edges and continuing to expand them. It's not going to feel comfortable. It's not going to feel easy, but I can tell you that if you can become okay again with those uncomfortable feelings and with the idea of perceived failure, then you will be led to not only your manifestations, but things far greater than what you can imagine for yourself right now. I know I've said it many times on the podcast, but the life that I'm living now is wilder than the wildest dreams that I had for myself. I didn't think that life could be this good. I didn't think it was possible for me to have such an aligned and fulfilling life. But that is a result of my willingness to continue to show up, even and especially when it didn't make sense, to lead with faith over fear. So that is how you start to really develop that faith inside of yourself. And this is exactly what I teach you inside of the Abundant AF Babe Academy, is how to do this for yourself on your own, independent of anything else that you feel as though you currently need to validate or determine your decisions for you. The number one key, I would say, to manifestation is trusting yourself. And for that reason, that is the number one thing that we focus on inside of the Abundant AF Babe Academy. You building that full faith and trust inside of yourself and inside of your intuition. And I already said it, but you can go ahead and get on the wait list for this round of the Abundant AF Babe Academy. The Abundant AF Babe Academy is unlike any other manifestation program that you will find out there. There is so much that goes into this program. And like I said, this is the last round that you're going to get the amount of direct support from me throughout it. So if you've been on the fence for the Abundant AF Babe Academy, now is the time to get on the wait list. And I hope that this podcast episode was helpful for you. I appreciate you showing up and listening, and that's all I got. So I will chat with you on the next podcast episode, and I'm sending you all of my love.